Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story is from a throwaway account. You may have seen parts of the story before, but timestamps are always down in the description if you want to skip the certain parts, totally up to you. And it's titled, Am I the Arsehole Here for Calling Off My Wedding Because My Fiancee Wanted to Invite Her Ex? My fiancé wanted to invite an ex to our wedding. From what I know, he was a dick who always put her down and told her that he was the best she could ever do. Naturally, I asked her why the hell does she want him at our wedding. She said she wanted to shove it in his face that she did amazingly for herself, and she got someone way better. While I appreciated the compliment, I asked her, are you really so hung up on him that you're going to make our wedding about him? Honestly, once I said it, it was like someone else told me. I didn't even realize what I was saying, and I didn't understand it until I said it. I told her that she shouldn't bother to invite him because we weren't getting married anymore. She was stunned and eventually apologized and told me to forget about her ex. I felt angry and almost told her she's the one who needs to forget about him. I don't know. She spent the day telling me that she's sorry for bringing it up. I'll be honest, I'm even reconsidering the entire relationship now. One of the first commenters on this post says, I don't think she is necessarily hung up on her ex. I think he may have tormented her to the point that she literally wanted to shove it in his face. Truth is, he probably wouldn't have come. He would get to see how wrong he was, and he's not going to do that. Opie says, him coming or not is not the point. I don't want to be at an altar promising my life to someone who's thinking, man, I really hope my ex is watching. Someone commented on Opie needing to be a grown-up adult and let the ex come, and Opie replies saying, do grown-ass adults really shove their relationship to an ex? That's a new one. And quotes the section saying, also did invite a couple of the other exes just because we are still friends, and Opie says, you do realize this ex used to abuse her, right? Not exactly a fucking friend. The commenter says not the arsehole for calling off the wedding. If her fixation on her ex has raised serious doubts about the relationship, the fact that she wanted to invite him to shove it in his face shows that she's still emotionally tied to proving something to him. And I think I'd feel pretty similar to OP as well, like after questioning about being hung up on him. Because your wedding should be about celebrating your love and commitment, not one of her exes who she wants to get some kind of revenge on. So for me, it would certainly want to make me pause on things for the time being. But before making any decisions though, it might be worth having a conversation with your partner about why the ex still has so much emotional real estate for him in her mind. So OP came in with a first update and says, so we're going to try some premarital counseling first. Our wedding has gone from being called off to being postponed indefinitely. My fiancée tried to explain why she wanted to invite her ex, but not only did she keep changing her answers, each one made it way worse for me. First, she tried to explain that she just wanted some payback. I told her, and if he doesn't care, are you going to rub it in his face, our first child, our first home? She said she didn't mean it that way and just wanted to prove her worth. Which I then told her that I guess her ex is the only one who can determine her worth. We kept going like this for a while, and there wasn't a single answer she gave that didn't boil down to, she cares what her ex thinks, and apparently she can't be happy unless her ex felt some sort of way. She denied it, but honestly, I find it hard to believe her. I don't want our marriage to be only worth something if her ex is the only one who can determine it. I refuse to be with someone whose happiness revolves around their ex's feelings. I decided to at least try some counseling. We've been together for years now. For your information, she was with her ex for about 2 years. 3 years later, she met me, and we've been together for 4. I figured I should try, so at least I can say I tried. Commenter says it sounds like you're not holding out too much. Hope for counseling having any good effect. That's a very smart thing because I don't think it will. Opie says, it's kind of hard to be hopeful after listening to my potential wife say she cares more about what her ex thinks in like 10 different ways. Commenter says not the arsehole. After 7 years broken up, 4 years out of the 7 with you, and sounds like she's still not over him. I wouldn't dare marry her. Another commenter says it's been 7 years and she's still obsessed. If you break up now, can you see yourself still being obsessed with her in 7 years' time whilst planning a wedding to someone else? Know your own worth, OP. And OP comes in with another update which just says, we broke up. We went to counseling for months and I just kept feeling worse and worse. Honestly, it says she thinks, but it might be she said things that kind of reminded me of some of the comments I read on my previous posts. How he was meant to be nothing except someone to be made fun of. I guess she simply did not understand I did not want her ex in there in any way, shape or form, including in her head. I told her I don't want her to look at me at the altar with her ex in her head. She just didn't get it. She thought because she wanted him to feel bad, it was okay. Honestly, at some point I realized we were talking about her damn ex every day, and it just hit me. I don't want to ever hear her talk about him again. I don't want to hear his damn name again, and I don't want my wife to constantly think about what her ex thinks of her. It's actually been a few weeks since our breakup, and I feel so relieved I haven't heard my ex talk about her ex. One of the comments below that said she invites him to the wedding, he shows up and spends a day rubbing her happiness in his face. Or she invites him and he doesn't even respond to the invite, and she spends her day pissed off because he got to her one last time. Revved Up says you focus on what you care about. That he was front and center in her mind as a measure of how much she still cared about him, and in a sense wanted his approval. His jealousy or anger at her getting married was a way for her to know he still wanted her, which only matters if she still wants him. At the end of that, I was thinking, and maybe it's a bit mean and uncalled for, but if she gets with someone else now and they eventually get to the point of marriage and planning their wedding, is she going to invite both of her exes now? I've just got this picture in my mind of a wedding venue full of exes. Holy moly, what do you guys make of this situation? Do you think OP did the right thing and break up in that moment? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from TartLimp3997, and it says, ex-girlfriend is now my boss. I'll try to keep this as short as possible. My now ex-girlfriend broke up with me out of nowhere 2 months ago after 2.5 years together and moved back to her hometown, same state. After that, I applied for the job she used to have, a position at the local hardware store for an external company that handles shelf maintenance, because I was unemployed at the time and needed a job pretty quickly. I got the job, and that's when I found out that she has now been promoted to regional manager since the previous one left. Now, on Monday, I have my first day of work, and she along with another regional manager will be training me tomorrow and Tuesday. Ever since I found out, I've been dreading tomorrow. Since last night, I've had terrible stomach cramps and nausea because I have no idea how to handle the situation. And I'm realizing that I'm still not over her. What should I do? How can I handle this situation better? Now for me, I think the only thing you can do in a situation like that is act professional. And I think it's as simple as that really, because any other way is just going to cause some kind of drama, and I assume you want this job, etc. But OP shortly updated and said, hello community, there is an update on my post from yesterday, but first I want to say this. I really want to thank everyone who gave me advice, encouraged me, or simply shared their opinion. I couldn't respond to the comments due to the sheer number and lack of time, which some people even pointed out in private messages. But I read every single one and was able to take some advice to heart. Now for the actual update. I went in and just focused on learning everything first. The regional manager made a really good impression on me right away, and that impression only got better throughout the day. I started at 7:30 AM, and around 9 he mentioned that he had to go to the train station soon. At that moment I knew exactly what he meant. He was going to pick up my ex. He must have noticed my reaction because he immediately followed up by saying that he wanted to ask me something a bit more personal, namely what kind of relationship I had with her. I was completely honest and told him that she was my ex-girlfriend. He then asked if that was going to be a problem for me. I took a moment to think and then said, if I'm being honest, which he immediately encouraged, yes, it is a problem for me. It's still fresh and I'm absolutely not over it yet. He reassured me that this wasn't an issue at all. He had sensed that there was something between us but didn't know exactly what, which is why he wanted to ask. He then said he would simply assign her to a completely different department so that we barely have to interact and that we should just try to make the best of the situation. As it turns out, it's not even certain that she'd get the position. For now, she's just attending a coaching/training session today and tomorrow. On top of that, it seems like the regions for managers will be significantly reduced because they will also be taking on a floating role within the company. This means that even if she does get the job, there's a good chance she'll be assigned to a completely different region due to the distance. I'm feeling a lot better now. I just want to thank you all again for reading and commenting. And there was lots of comments below this one regarding OP having missing reasons and being a suspect narrator, and the fact that he applied to his ex-girlfriend's company knowing she was still there, knowing he's not over at the same time. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Am I Overreacting subreddit from Aggressive Cost 2007. And it says, my boyfriend said I'm the prettiest when I shut up, in front of his friends. My boyfriend, 25 male, and I, 22 female, were invited to a birthday party of his friend. The people at this event were all close friends of him from his contract job, and I barely know these people. Everything was going fine, and my boyfriend was clearly having a great time. But at some point, I was telling a story from my school days when my boyfriend interrupted and said, you know, OP is prettiest when she shuts up. Everyone laughed and my boyfriend just kept going, saying, you guys don't know what I go through. She never stops talking. I swear to God, sometimes I tune her out for my own sanity. Or something along those lines. I'm usually really introverted, but when I warm up to someone, I'm the type to talk a lot. When he said these words, I felt so embarrassed and humiliated, especially since he said it so casually in front of people I don't even know. I tried to brush it off, but I got quiet after that. Later, after the party was over, I told him how hurtful his comment was. He rolled his eyes and said I was being too sensitive, and that it was just a joke and I was making a big deal out of nothing. He said I embarrassed him by acting cold for the rest of the night, and that I should learn to take a joke. He also told me if I couldn't learn to lighten up, maybe I shouldn't come to events with his friends anymore, even though he was the one who asked me to come in the first place. I feel so awful and confused. Am I in the wrong for getting upset and killing the vibe? P.S. Throwaway, as my main has some personal info. Absolutely not overreacting at all. He sounds like a right fucking knobhead. Someone who thinks it's funny to publicly humiliate you and then gaslight you when you have a completely normal reaction to it. And what he's saying wasn't a joke. Prettiest when she shuts up is just straight up cruel. There's no punchline to that except my girlfriend should be seen and not heard. And like you said, they were his friends, so in that moment as I was reading it for you, it felt very isolating and embarrassing. And the fact that he never apologized after this is telling. You simply deserve so much better than that. But Zucchini says, not overreacting. Your boyfriend straight up doesn't like you. If he feels so emboldened to insult you in front of his friends, this behavior will only get worse. UFC Ring Girl says he sounds like a fuckwit, and so does his friends. But OP did come in with the update and says, I broke up with him. We'd been dating for 2 years and it was the first time he acted that way. So I was genuinely conflicted and I wasn't sure if the joke really flew over my head. But I decided to leave. It takes me a lot of effort to come out of my shell, and I feel uncomfortable to stay with someone who doesn't like that. My self-esteem is usually really low, but this time I spoke up for myself once in a long time. We broke up over text. It sucked since he kept bringing up all his contract job friends over me again and again. These are people he acquainted with less than 7 months ago, so that alone told me some things. I won't be missing anything since he ended our text with, bye, I don't give a fuck. Thanks for all the sweet comments, and at the time I wrote the post, I was feeling a lot down and cried a lot. I'm a bit sensitive, so I teared up reading some comments. Thanks again. I hope everyone has a nice day. Top comments is on this one saying, proud of you girl, go get yourself some food and flowers and enjoy a movie. Self-care and happiness is best. Lynn JM says, I foresee him begging you for forgiveness in the near future when he realizes his work friends don't really give a fuck about him long term. And if he does come begging you for forgiveness, do not accept it. You know, his text by I don't give a fuck, just this whole attitude just fucking stinks. But good on you for standing up for yourself and just, you know, breaking up with him in the end because it had to be done. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have another story. Now our next story is from the Am I Overreacting subreddit, and it's just titled, "Am I Overreacting? Boyfriend said he'd help." And it starts off with a picture of a living room by the looks of it that's just covered in plaster. Looks like the roof's fallen down and there's just bits everywhere. I'm explaining for the podcast here, by the way. You got a standard living room setup and literally covered in plaster. Like the whole roof has come down. But OP says, "We've been having our Artex plastered in our flat. I own it. I've paid and sorted it all out as he isn't bothered by it. I PVA'd the ceiling and clearly had not put a thick enough coat because at 6:30 PM there was a huge crash and the plaster came down in our front room, leaving a huge mess. And more on the ceiling potentially to come down, with my fish tank being below it. I told the plasterer and he said, take it all down and PVA again. I was upset this happened and started cleaning. My 29 female boyfriend, 32 male, said he'd come and help in a sec, and then proceeded to play video games for almost an hour while I cleaned. Once he'd come in, I was visibly crying and snapped at him saying I've already filled 3 bin bags of plaster and it was almost all done. This proceeded into an argument with me saying, why didn't you come help me? He said I was rushing to get it done and there was no need to start right away. I said I had lots of work to be done. I had to go pick up more plaster before 8. The dogs can't walk around when there's plaster everywhere. I need to prep the ceiling for tomorrow, and you said you'd be in a sec, but weren't. I then had to leave to go get plaster, and he finished off the rest of the cleaning. He said, since I should know he doesn't mean a sec when he says a sec, he was busy. It doesn't matter doing what, and I was only taking my upset out on him, and shouldn't have spoken angry to him, and I just cleaned to make myself better than him. I've asked him to apologize for not helping with the brunt of the work. He asked me to apologize for taking my upset out on him. Am I overreacting? Look, I love computer games and all that sort of stuff, and I certainly get absorbed in games, online games which can't be paused, and the plaster from the ceiling dropping down in the living room and crashing down to the extent that's in this picture, again, for the podcast users, like it's everywhere. There's plaster literally all over everything. There's a point where you got to say, that's the priority at the minute. That's what needs to be dealt with. Holy crap, for that level of chaos to go in on the living room, and he just like, no, just give me a sec, and then spend an hour continuing to play the game is wild to me. But Fortuna Knox says, not overreacting. Look, my partner and I are both gamers, but the minute there's a big freaking crash and the damn ceiling is on the floor, you better believe we're on it straight away. He's throwing shit like you're being mean and you're just trying to make me feel bad out there to make you think that you're at fault here. So he doesn't have to face the fact that he's fucked up by being a selfish, slack shit and he left you high and dry when you needed his help. Like, you're allowed to be upset and on edge and frustrated and furious in this situation. And when the person who is supposed to be your partner in crime, and that includes the cleanup, doesn't do a damn thing until you've nearly sorted it out all yourself. With how you've ridden though, it feels like this is just a gigantic, plastery straw that broke the camel's back. Is it a common thing with him? Like you ask for help in something that is time sensitive and end up doing it all yourself because he's too busy gaming? Because if that's the case, then it is a pattern. I want you to really think on if you want the rest of your life to look like this whenever something goes seriously wrong. Are me and my partner perfect? Hell no. We're both guilty of, say, forgetting to hang the laundry out in time because one or both of us was in the middle of a game we couldn't exit quickly. But when it comes to something massive and needs to be sorted in the moment / straight away like this, we're both up on out of our chairs and don't care if we die in game. We can always reload a save or res our characters, but we can't fix breaking the trust we have in each other to be a support and help when shit hits the fan. NFL says, as a male who likes playing video games, I would know that it was time to press pause. Oh my god, reply saying, right? Once when my husband was at work, over an hour away, our well pump filtered housing cracked. Water went everywhere, but because it's in the basement, I didn't realize it had happened until we had a few inches of water in the basement. I sent him a text and a pic. I didn't ask him to come home, but he dropped everything in his job that pays him actual money and drove home to help me clean it up. I was feeling overwhelmed and was upset because every card he had ever given me had gotten wet, and those are some of the most precious things I own. I was sobbing and he's like, you save the cards, I'll work on getting the water out and then we'll figure out what to do from there. That's the kind of partner you want, OP. not a man baby who claims you only clean to make him look bad. The fuck is that? But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. Holy moly, I hope you did get the mess sorted out in the end and your roof sorted out as well. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and much love.
I've been thinking about your smile. I've been thinking that I can't let you go.